Hi there, and welcome to Inside the Wooniverse, a podcast brought to you from the corner of Fringe and Maine. I'm your host, Colette Baron-Reid. Joining us today is the spectacular Australian creative visionary, spiritual artist, and beloved author, Alana Fairchild. Alana's diverse and original body of work includes over, get this, 55 published titles, from books and oracle cards to meditations and music. She is awesome. And Alana's online courses include unique healing modalities in divine feminine energy work and the sacred art of light work with enlightened beings. You are the coolest. Welcome, Alana.
It's so lovely to connect with you, Colette. I just feel like we're sisters on the path, really.
Yes. I was actually super shy to contact you because I've been following you along, and our oracle card decks are all usually side by side on the shelves in the stores. And I kind of be looking, and then sometimes I would, should I buy one? I don't know. And then what if she doesn't like me?
Oh my God, who doesn't like you? You're just absolutely beautiful.
But anyway, and then I actually started looking at your website and stuff, and we have so much in common. But anyway, we'll get to that in a sec. But I really want to get to know you, and I know a lot of my fans also collect your decks, and I want them to know you. I want to know you. So I want to go back way to the beginning. What was it like for you? Because I know you've written about this in your books, etc., but your childhood, let's just start all the way with little Alana.
Little star beam.
The little star being, exactly.
Little star beam. It's funny because I think sometimes when something's quite natural for you, you just assume that it's the same for everyone. So I sort of came into this world with that sense of spiritual connection really just there. It was pretty natural, and it came out in a couple of ways. I was raised in a Christian family, but fairly open-minded, unusual so actually. So there was the kind of more traditional religious facet. And then there was, I'm such a little pagan as well. I would be out running in nature and being around trees because Australia is quite an amazing place like that to grow up. And I just felt the divine in trees, in spirits, a lot in the sky. I would lay on my back as a kid and look at the sky and sort of perceive the divine there. And I just felt it as this living part of the world and the spirit and me. So that was pretty natural for me, and I never really thought much about it. And then I was raised in Sydney, which is a pretty multicultural area. And from the moment I first went to kindergarten, I had friends who were Hindu and Sikh and Baha'i and Zen Buddhist and all sorts of different cultures and backgrounds. So I was in and out of homes with different types of food, different religious iconography, different ethnicities, different languages, ways of dressing and eating. And it was just normal. It was normal to me. I just found it really interesting. So I think all of that kind of set me up to do the work that I'm doing now in a way, but I never really thought much of it until I got a little bit older, and then had this sense of, that that's not the way that most things happen, that there is a kind of sometimes a fear or a sense of distrust around things that are different. And so lately I've really been thinking about how much gratitude I have that was part of my upbringing as a little girl.
Yeah. So do you remember, I love your story because it was similar to me, Canada, like Australia, and especially Toronto, very multicultural. So we were exposed to a lot of different ways as well. My family was anyway. So do you remember any specific moment where you had a real spiritual experience that was really unusual when you were young? That were like, wait a sec, what is this?
It was just always there. So there wasn't any one particular thing where I thought, like, what's happening or what's opening up, because it was just always there. In fact, I didn't really have any startling spiritual experiences until I was older, and after I had sort of slowly shut down at some level through going to school, and I did a very kind of left brain law degree at university.
Oh my God, I went to law school too. Come on. Look at us now. Oh my God, this is crazy. Okay, go on.
So I became sort of more left brain. I never completely disconnected from that other part of me, but it just got kind of dialed down. and I thought, I had to join the real world. I have since really redefined what the real world
Yeah.
actually is.
Yep.
Thank God it wasn't that that depressing state that I was in for quite a while. And it was then in the opening up again when I decided that I didn't want to practice law, and I had to embrace something that felt like it was connected with my heart. And then I met a spiritual teacher who, she did channeling and worked with aura soma. I don't know
Oh
if you
yeah.
guys have
Yeah.
such a bit of it.
Yeah. I did the
Yeah, or
whole
colour.
training, the Aura Soma
Yeah,
training.
it's stunning,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. And I just loved her. I thought she was amazing. And she was the first person that actually just said to me, what you're doing with law, you'll use those skills later on, but you should be more doing something like this. And I thought, yes, this voice came out of me, and I said, I know. And I was listening to myself saying that. I'm thinking, what is this voice? Like, I don't even know what part of me is saying this, but it was like a light switch back on that I didn't even realize had slowly been dimmed throughout a period of time where I was just trying to fit in and play by the rules of society. And it just doesn't work for me. It doesn't work well. I've tried it. I ended up with depression and anxiety. It wasn't good. So I had to learn how to trust and move in a different way. And that's when the stronger spiritual experiences started to come through, because I think I'd learned what it was to feel separate from it, which I wasn't when I was little. I always felt connected to it.
So when you started, did you actually start working as a healer at that point, or how did your
Yes.
how did the path open up for you when you decided law wasn't for you? I love that law, but law wasn't for me either. I can tell you that.
We went with cosmic law, right?
Yeah, we both went with cosmic law.
Yeah. Look, it was really, I call it my inelegant stumbling, because I really had no idea what I was doing. But essentially what I did is I started doing classes with this teacher. I studied with her for about 2 years. And she taught me meditation and some psychic development. And I just started doing tarot readings at festivals part-time. I still remember the first one. I was absolutely terrified. I hadn't really had much experience with readings, and I said to my teacher, I don't really know what I'm doing. And she said, don't worry, you'll be absolutely fine. After you've done 10 readings, it'll feel like driving a car. And I just thought, okay. So I sat down, and this woman sat opposite me, and I still remember it. I just looked at her, had a moment of panic, and then I just relaxed, opened my mouth and started talking. And I still remember what I said to her. I said, you're interested in photography? And she said, looked at me a bit surprised, said yes. And then boom, off I went and started talking. And then, and it didn't take 10 readings, it took about one. And I just felt like, oh, this is natural for me. Like, this is what I should actually be doing. So out of readings, eventually I started channeling my passion for chakras and energy work, and I started teaching circles and still doing readings, and it just kind of evolved. But I do remember I did get busted in law school once for reading a book on chakras in the middle of a litigation exam. So I think the signs were there, right, earlier on, but I wasn't taking quite the right path.
That's funny. That's very funny. Okay, so let's go back a little bit. I love your story about the tarot. So it really just came effortlessly to you. Did you have any interest in divination, like, in studying divination after that? Because I know you're a bit of a nerd like I am. So I'm just going to, I am too, a huge nerd. So did you dive into other divination systems too, beside the tarot?
Yes, I was interested and still am in runes, tarot, palmistry. We were always, I was raised in a Catholic household, but we were very kind of, Catholics can be pretty relaxed anyway, I've got to say, out of all the Christian denominations. Catholicism is probably one of the more laid back in some ways. But we, having psychics coming in and out of the house, that was pretty normal. We believed in reincarnation. We never really questioned it. My mother and my grandmother both had kind of psychic tendencies. So if someone passed away, they'd often have dreams of them. Or I remember one time my grandmother told me that her mother, great-grandmother, used to live interstate, and then she'd just ring out of the blue and go, who's sick? Like,
oh, wow, I love it.
Yeah, she was always right too, someone wasn't well. So there was always this sense of being really open to other dimensions of experience, and we never really thought much about it. There was never any sense of fear around it either, which can be unusual. If you're raised in a religious household, sometimes that's not the case. But for us, it was all just part of life. So that openness around psychic phenomena, divination, different realms, the afterlife, spirits and spirit beings. That was all kind of part of what I grew up with, really.
Oh, I love that. So, you talk about your affection for Mother Mary, and that's my favorite oracle deck of yours. It's particularly personally meaningful to me. And your grandmother, who used to read the Rosary every night. Is that right?
Yes,
Right.
yeah, yeah, she did.
So, you're really well known around the world for your work with the divine feminine energy. So, would you say that would have been the impetus for your interest in the divine feminine?
It definitely started there. It's funny because at one point I was living in the house of my childhood with my mother, my grandmother, and my great grandmother all under the same roof, which it's a lot of that's a lot of feminine energy. I mean, I have two brothers and my father, obviously, but the feminine was very strong. So I think that sort of sense of independence and strength in the feminine was also something I was raised with. I come from a line of quite strong, sometimes stubborn, which I've definitely inherited, women. I like to call it determination. But anyway,
Yeah.
and there is that sense of that reverence for it and that respect for it. So I think part of it definitely from childhood. And then it was funny because as I sort of went through that time of trying to normalize myself with so much disaster, I also became quite disconnected from my body during that time. I had depression, I had
Hmm.
anxiety. I found it hard to feel really connected to who I was physically. And I think during that time, part of the remedy for that, of
Hmm.
learning how to reconnect to my body, to my creativity, and to my intuition, was reconnecting with the feminine. And I
Hmm.
didn't really know what it was when that started. I just started having a almost obsessive interest in color, in texture, in fabric, in smell, in I wanted to dance. Became more interested in singing again, something I loved as a child. And it was just like my soul was basically saying, you've got too into your head. You've got
Uh-huh.
disconnected from who you are. You need to come back in. You need to come back to your body. And the feminine was the way that happened, this kind of beautiful engagement at a sensory level with the world in a way that
Hmm.
was healing, not a way that was, we can have these, excuse me, these stories around it like it's not good or it's not spiritual or different things that we've internalized culturally. But my experience with the feminine was that it was very much about this deep grounding back into the home of the body. So it was
Hmm.
quite beautiful. And then from there, I was like, well, I had a look around culturally and thought, well, we need this actually.
Uh-huh.
This is not just me. This is a kind of, especially in Western culture, but it's so prevalent. And that's when I started to think, well, I wish someone had have told me what would happen when I started connecting with the divine feminine, because I didn't know. And it was chaos. Oh my God, I hated it at first. I just, she moves in circles and it's non-linear and it's intuitive and you
Yeah.
never know what's going to happen. But it's good kind of chaos. It's the
Hmm.
generative, nourishing, healing, restorative kind of chaos that gets you out of your head and keeps you on your path. And it's like, those memes on social media, they have like the path to success. We think it looks like this A to B and it's a straight
Right.
line, and
But
then
it's
what it really looks like in a period. Looks like my hair. It's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, and I had to learn how to trust that and how to sense it. So I just felt passionate. I wanted to share it.
This makes total sense now because before we got on the call, I had pulled an oracle card from my deck, Wisdom of the Oracle, and it was chaos. And this no, but in the actual card, it does talk about the divine chaos, that we have to remember that there is a kind of a divine organization that doesn't follow our linear mindset. We don't have logic to it. So and I do think this is exactly why I got that card, to talk about this one thing, because I think people want soft landings all the time. They want things to be all sweet and happy and manifest and wiggle your nose, and all of a sudden, boom, there's magic, right? And they want to bypass anything uncomfortable and difficult. And I what you've just said now, which is true, when you follow the divine feminine, she's going to take you on quite a ride, and it's not going to
Yeah.
be down the road from A to B. And to surrender to that, I think this is a really key piece, um, that you talk about in your work. And I think that divine chaos is a beautiful thing, but it can be scary because you have to trust, right?
Yeah, you do. And it's just, I think for me, I always try to think of it as perspective as well. What looks like chaos to humans is typically just an expression of a beautiful higher order with a plan and
Yeah.
an intelligence, but it's organic. It's like nature.
That's
I always use the butterfly example because I think it's so fierce. I mean, this sweet, soft, beautiful thing emerges, but it literally devours itself
yeah.
in a chrysalis. It's like, that's kind of incredible. So I think just having that understanding, it can be fierce, but it's always compassionate and it's always trustworthy.
Or at least it should be. So like it's really our choice of how we engage it too. I think what you teach is the way to engage it in a way that's with
Yeah.
grace, right? But there's a lot of people that will resist this, and the idea that we are in that chrysalis eating ourselves and feeling really claustrophobic and and sticky and having nightmares, etc. Then all of a sudden we were a butterfly. Woo! What was that all about, right? So, but it's trusting that we'll get there, right? It's really trusting that we're going to get there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to bring this up because it is really quite impressive. You've created 55 published bodies of work. Okay, now that's a lot. Come on, all right.
It is a lot. Yeah. That's
And
my
every time
heritage
you
of
put out,
overfeeding.
right? I mean, come on. And never mind that 20. I think 20 decks. How many more? Is there more than 20 decks?
It is, but I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, well, we counted 20, but we thought maybe it was 22. So I think, and tell me if I'm inaccurate about this, that you are actually the person in the world with the most decks of any of us.
I actually don't know.
I think
That's
it's
probably
true. Yeah, and I think I'm right behind you. Then there was DV, and then there's me. Yes, it's so I think yeah. But you are very impressive, and they're beautiful. I mean, every one of them. They're all just so unique and independent and beautiful and incredible. Like, so would you say that you're creative?
Yeah, obsessively. Yeah, obsessively so.
Uh-huh.
I also, I mean, it's such a group effort too, like with the different artists.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just, I know this is a difficult time in a lot of ways to be alive, but it's also an amazing time to be alive.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I
kind of
agree.
both things. And just the amount of art and the amount of creativity generally that's flourishing in the human psyche and the
Yeah.
openness in people who want to explore the inner realm and they're not
Mm-hmm.
completely seduced by appearances of things and want to get into the real juicy,
Mm-hmm.
nourishing soul energies. That's very inspiring to me. So when I see someone's art, and like, for example, you mentioned the Mother Mary Oracle in Shiloh, I stalked Shiloh on social media. I said, please, you've got you will love this deck. We'll create something together. And it took a little while, but eventually she agreed. And
It's
that
my
was magic.
favorite of yours. It
Oh, I
really
love
is
your
my
idea.
favorite. Yeah. Yeah, it's because of that deck that I ended up taking a class from her, and now I'm doing my own art because of Shiloh, so we share her in common. So I
It's
want to talk
amazing.
a little bit more about the different products, and I don't even want to call them products because they're not. It's a
Offerings.
funny thing, right? They're offerings. Yeah, that's a funny word. All of a sudden, I went, "Ew, that's not the right word," because they're
Yeah.
offerings. So and what is when you dive in to work on an offering, for example, how do you do this? Like, do you all of a sudden realize I'm so inspired to talk about this and focus on this and then offer this?
It sort of happens. It's like a wave. I always feel like spirit is leaving, not just for me, but for everyone. I call them cosmic breadcrumbs, but there are like these little things on the path that happen and they
Mm-hmm.
plant the seed, and it might be an experience or you notice something or you have a conversation or something happens, and it's sort of, they accumulate, and
Mm-hmm.
eventually I have an awareness that sort of emerges from within, like something's been cooking inside the Divine Mother's kitchen in my soul, and suddenly, bing, the timer goes off, and I'm like, oh, look at that. And I think usually it's an awareness of a problem or something that needs a solution, and I start to
Uh-huh.
think, what does that need? Like, what would resolve it? And then
Right.
some beautiful, it's like the spiritual dimensions open up, and they
No,
drop
I
some
get it.
inspiration. Yeah, and it's sort of, I never feel like I'm creating it as I go. I never feel that way. I always feel like it's fully baked, and I'm just trying to pull it through.
Uh-huh.
So it's sort of the the concept, the teaching, whether it's a deck or a book or an album or whatever, it's already there. And then I'm trying to be as faithful as possible with bringing it through in its entirety and not distorting it. And that's why they're all so different.
Yeah,
Like
I
all the
noticed.
different
I really noticed that, and they do feel very specific to,
they
right?
are.
Like they're very specific, and I've never seen anybody else at decks like that. That this is what you use for this. This is what you use for that. This is,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're like
They're
vitamins for the
yeah.
soul. Yeah.
They're
Yeah. I
really
never planned that, just happened.
no. It's
Yeah.
spectacular. It's really great. It's really great.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
No, I love it. So you do talk about your decks like they're little spiritual practices. So
Yes.
tell me about that. Like, let's talk about a couple of your favorite ones and explain the spiritual practice, because I think it's really would be really great for people to know that before they go out and get some, because they will.
Yeah. I think part of that comes from the creative process when I'm writing it, because it always feels different, which makes sense. You know, if you're writing a deck that's like a vitamin C or one that's a vitamin B or whatever, they're going to feel different. So they do. So like when I was writing the Isis Oracle, for example, and I've been obsessed with ancient Egypt since I was a little girl. So that just felt like a beautiful thing to do. But there was so much around owning your power and your spiritual sovereignty. And I felt different when I was writing
Yep.
it compared to the Kuan Yin Oracle, which is the first one I wrote, which was very much in the heart. And there's still heart in Isis, but it's like a different view. It's
Yeah.
like a different refraction of the light. So I just noticed the difference in that. And I find, sometimes people say to me, which one do I choose? And I'm not sure. And I always just say, just trust your soul like you would trust your body with what you need to eat for lunch. It's like your soul will be naturally attracted to certain decks, and for you, there'll be something in it that you just spiritually need. Even for me, if I'm reaching to do a reading for something, it might be what am I drawn to? And I just trust it. I don't really second guess it. It's just that sense of intuition and instinct. So the spiritual practice is part of that. Do you need Mother Mary? Do you need that comfort and that sense of protection whilst you're being a badass because you're such a fierce woman, right? Really, don't think of her like that. She was, and still is. And it's sort of like getting that sense of what you need, even if you don't consciously know. At some deeper level, and it's okay to trust it.
One of the things you just said I thought was just so beautiful. You said these are different refractions of light, right? That it's all the same light, but there's just
Yes.
different. And I noticed the Isis Oracle. I too had. I mean, you could be my twin. I'm listening to you talk, going, "Oh my God, this woman is," like, because I too was obsessed with that when I was a kid. And that particular oracle does feel very. It's about sovereignty and owning your power and really being grounded in that, but in a fierce way, but not fierce. Like it felt very like solid. I felt that oracle
Yeah.
was very solid, and Kuan Yin was gentle. The
Yes.
gentle quality. Well, she's the goddess of compassion, right? So that it just, even the way you wrote the decks were, just, it's like you embody this energy. So, I always believe that decks are alive. I believe, I'm an animist, right? I don't know if you are, but I believe in
Beautiful.
this,
Yes.
the spirit of these things, and you have an extraordinary way of being able to do that. Let's talk a little bit about the divine feminine energies now, and how would people be able to access that, and why is it important now in your estimation?
I love that question. I feel collectively that we're going through it, and it's just timing. It's just nature moves, the soul's nature. So the soul moves, and the soul, like nature, is part of an ecosystem. So when a certain number of souls, it's like a wave. So we're all kind of in it collectively. There's just many of us that are already on this path and are working with the realm of soul and emotions and healing. And so we're a little bit ahead of the curve. We can kind of look back and go, yeah, just swim, like just paddle, follow me. I've been doing this for a little while. we kind of know it. But I think there's still a lot of humanity that is yet to kind of grapple with what's happening. And the feminine is really, she's a truth speaker. She's not interested in trying to explain things away. She just wants to be able to say, this is what's happening. And then when we acknowledge that, we're in a position of power because we can respond to it appropriately rather than what we wish was happening or think should be happening. So I think with so much complexity, change, uncertainty, and shifts that are happening in the collective, we need her. We need her honesty and her sense of strength. And when I say her, I mean the divine feminine. And when I say the divine feminine, I mean the spiritual intelligence that's in the soul of all beings.
Right. And it doesn't matter the gender. Yeah, it's not a gendered thing. That's what I'm
No,
getting
it's
from you.
not.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's important that we remember that. And then we can look to nature, because nature is a wonderful divine feminine gospel, and she's always unfolding and teaching us, look, it looks like winter, it looks like the apocalypse and everything's dying, but actually, look, spring comes next. It's part of a cycle, and we can kind of go, oh, okay, well, let me move with what's happening, even if it gets a bit scary, because there's an intelligence that's using this to regenerate and transform. And I don't have to know what that's going to look like, but I can understand that it's happening, and I don't have to get caught up in panic. I can steady myself and move with the journey, move with the process. So I think we need her. And it starts, the way you access it is you just start with what's happening with me now. And that's why I think oracle decks can be beautiful, because they're kind of like sacred mirrors for the soul. You read an oracle deck and it helps you connect with your truth.
100%.
Oh, yeah, I can relate to that. And then journaling is another way you can do that. Dance, meditation. Some people like yoga or gardening, dancing on the beach, whatever it is that helps you feel like you're stepping out of the crazy cultural hamster wheel and acknowledging that it's there, but just stepping back and saying, okay, what is real with me in this moment, in my body, in my mind, and just breathing and not having to fix or worry or panic, but just be with it and finding that strength to be present. And then the next, those cosmic breadcrumbs, then we see them more clearly, because we're kind of in our bodies and we can see more clearly.
I love what you said when you said nature was a gospel. Is that what you said? Say that again.
Gospel.
The gospel of nature. That was fascinating that you said that it's, and we are nature. So
yes, we are.
What does that mean?
So the wisdom's within. It's just, I sometimes say that my best successes have happened despite my best efforts. And it's just, it's my, self-deprecating Australian way of saying that sometimes we get in our own way and we make things much more difficult than what they need to be. And that's okay. It's part of being human. It's an advanced spiritual masterclass for the soul. Yeah. So it's not always meant to be easy, and that's fine. But part of what I've had to learn is to, and this is the facet of surrender, instead of getting in and wanting to fix everything, which is something that I think a lot of modern women, especially in the West, we're such multitasking, just get stuff done kind of thing approach. And we kind of get conditioned with that a little bit. And it's not bad necessarily, but sometimes it can kind of take over where it's not always the best way for us. It can make things a little bit harder. So, yeah, being able to step back and just have that sense of, what's that beautiful Taoist expression? I'm paraphrasing here, but nature never rushes and everything gets accomplished is essentially. So it's a trust that we belong to the universe. We're growing with life. The universe knows where we want to go and what we want to manifest, and we're moving with it. We don't have to always push against life or against what's happening to make things happen. It doesn't mean that we give up our will or our dynamic quality, but we learn how to balance it with a magnetism. So we're kind of paddling with the cosmic wave rather than trying to swim against it, which is just exhausting. And ultimately, the universe is pretty powerful. It's not going to turn out too well for us.
Right.
Better if we move with the naturalness of our own being.
We have to trust that whatever it is that our intentions are, our love, will come in. Basically, I'll paraphrase, divine appropriate timing is what you're saying.
Yes, totally.
And it is so true in our society, and especially for women, especially for entrepreneurs as well, that we have to produce, fix, go heal somebody, make it like assuming that something is broken and right, or like try to bypass it and say, oh no, everything is love, and right, and that doesn't work. So because nature is messy, it's dirty, it's muddy, it dies, it awakens, it regenerates, it's shit, it's rain, it's sky, it's chaos, and then it's quiet. So all of those things are important. And what you just described so beautifully with such grace is we just really need to surrender to the natural flow of life, like period. And that's not easy for a lot of people, especially because we've been taught that if you're not producing, you don't get to breathe.
Yes, but nature still produces, and I think that's
Right.
the thing. We still will be creative, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like the baseline is a cooperative, collaborative effort. I like the idea of moving with the wave. I mean, I was raised
Mm-hmm.
in surf culture in Australia, so it's like you move with the current.
Yeah.
You don't try and get into the ocean and then yell at the ocean because the wave isn't where you are. I've
Right.
been known to do that. Tantrums, I call those, but
You're
you swim
funny.
to where you sense where the wave is, and you move to that, and then and it's more fun for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a swimmer, so I understand that. It's, you don't swim against the current, and
Yeah.
you always get to where you're going, right?
Yeah.
You just have to go with that. So I'm going to go back to a couple of things. You said you have a degree in the arts and law. You have degrees in
Yes.
both, yes.
Yes.
And you explored training in astrology, psychotherapy, dance, music, singing, energetic healing, meditation, and more. Okay. And when
Yeah.
do you sleep? No, that's just
Oh,
a
yeah. I sleep a lot. I love my sleep. A lot of my good teachings come in dreams, so I do sleep. I'm an
Yeah, I'm
introvert.
kidding.
Yeah.
But
But I'm a
it's the
nerd.
thing is that what I find fascinating about you is you really do seem to effortlessly weave all of these passions together. Was it always like that with you, or, did you ever struggle with presenting one of these identities? Because you have multiple identities, if you will, right? I mean, I actually, years ago, you did this big event in Sydney. It was dancing and music and everything, and I so wanted to go. This is like, I love
Oh,
this woman. I don't know if you still do those big events where they dance, etc. But there was something so primal, and so you just own it. So
I love
have you ever had trouble owning all of it the way you do?
um, I haven't had trouble owning that. Like, that's quite natural for me, and I'm working on a new project. It's gonna be a little while in
I'm
the
dying to hear
pipeline.
about that. We'll come back to
Yeah.
that. Okay, we'll talk. Yes.
But I think that weaving it together, that was a whole journey, and it was actually really difficult. And it was sort of I did it on the ground. I can never figure these things out and then go perfectly. I'm a very much, maybe everyone's like this, I don't know, but I'm very much a hands-on. I have to get in there, try to figure it out, make a fool of myself at least once,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and then at least once, and then go, oh, that didn't quite work, or that worked, but I've got to, humble myself a bit and keep going. And I I just kind of bumble along until eventually it's strange because it's not an intellectual sense of it. It's very
Hmm.
intuitive, but I feel like I can work with the energy, and then I just feel relaxed, and things
Uh-huh.
happen. I don't know if that's very vague and generic, but
No, it makes perfect sense to me.
good.
It's- especially
Well,
the
we understand.
bumbling part. And making a fool of myself. I got that one.
Ah,
But no, but it's so true. I think now this makes a lot of sense because all of the things that you've done, like the arts with psychotherapy, dance being the kinetic part, obviously, that you
yeah,
bring those things together, and then music, you have your singing and the healing. I think it all comes from the same source. I think
it
that's what
does.
it is, but that our social conditioning has an expectation that we're only supposed to get to do one, right?
Oh, yes, that's
Because
true.
really it's like you have this cord of all these threads of all these different colors that have come together quite beautifully, and that's how you present, that all of these pieces are in there. And I think that's why you're so attractive to so many people, especially right now. We need you. I think
Thank
that's
you.
the
Gosh, you're
truth.
so generous. What a beautiful thing to say.
But it's true.
You know what's funny? When I started doing more of that, the way you just got primal dance, but it is from the same source. But I remember at the time I had a long term client who'd worked with me for more than 10 years, and she said, "Oh, well, you're not doing spiritual teaching anymore," and I was shocked. And I said,
Ah,
"Why would you think that?" And she said, "Because this is so different." I said, "No, no, it's like a tree.
yeah.
Some things are branches, and some things are roots, and some are." Crazy berries and flowers, but it's all from the same thing. It's all part of the tree.
Right. And that is so true. And I think that's what I think having this conversation, we give people permission, or your description of this is going to give some of the listeners permission to not just be one thing.
Yeah,
That we are like trees. We have different roots that speak to different parts of other roots under the ground, and we have different branches, and each branch might have a different flower, different, but it's still the tree. So I think
Yes.
that's really important because I know a lot of people struggle with that, especially now. A lot of people ask me like, well, should I just be a reader or can I also do healings and can
Oh my
I pursue
goodness.
this? And I'm like, do all of it. Why are you doing
Yeah,
just one
totally.
thing? Because I thought I would, and I think that people struggle with that now. And I think we need this multiplicity right now, especially in the spiritual world. Okay, I have to ask you
Yeah.
this. Let's go to this. First, let's go to your new project because I want to know about that. But then I want to talk about Lemuria, Atlantis and Lemuria. So let's talk about your new project. Let's talk about that
You're
next.
amazing because it's grounded in Atlantis and Lemuria. You
Ah,
psychic woman.
I'm a psychic woman. Oh my God, I might be a psychic woman. Okay, I thought there were two separate things in my head. Okay. It's all one. We are one.
Oh my
We are
God.
unified. Okay, tell us about it. Please tell, tell, tell.
There's two facets. One, I'm working on a new modality based on dance and integration of healing and spirituality in a bunch of different facets. So I've been brewing on it. And this other project as well for about 12 years. So things cook for
Sign
me. They
me
take
up
a
for that
while.
one. Okay, anyway, go.
Yeah. It's on the way. It's
That's on the
still,
way. Well, you'll let me know. Okay,
yeah.
go on. And
And the other thing is a musical. I'm
a
writing a show.
musical.
Like a shamanic musical. I'm
Huh.
so excited about it. So that's yeah, but there's connections with Atlantis and Lemuria and that's more than I've told anyone. So yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, well, I won't keep reading your mind then. I won't say things that
Yeah,
out loud without asking first.
it's coming. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just leave it there. That's
Yeah, it's still
fascinating.
yeah, I'm loving it.
Don't you think when you have a play or when you have you're actually using metaphor and symbolism and music as a way to touch people. So
Definitely.
having that kind of multimedia experience is spectacular. I can hardly wait. I hope you get this thing off the ground sooner than later.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's it'll happen, but it's just everything's energy, isn't it? And I
Yeah.
always loved theatre as a child. Like, I mean, it's so symbolic of the richness of the unconscious and the dream state. Like, you sit in
Yeah.
a darkened auditorium, and then all of a sudden, these archetypes are on the stage, and the healing power of that. I mean, I think previous generations prior to modernity, storytelling and theatre, it was sacred. So, and I still think that's the case. It's just sometimes we maybe forget the sacredness and get caught up in how fascinating and that why can't it be entertaining and amazing and sacred and healing.
Yes.
Those things, we want them together. Let's make the medicine be sweet if we can.
I
Why
love
not?
that. And I do think that especially now with people their attention span is like gnats, right? You can really catch somebody's attention with art. You have this whole music and dance and storytelling and that's the way it was way back when. And I do think that we have this memory, a sense memory in our spirit and our souls that this is what we're lacking right now. And we need more of it. I'm so excited that you're doing this. This is so exciting. Oh my gosh. All right. So you have some beautiful meditations that are about Lemuria, particularly, and Atlantis. Do you have a thread that you feel like maybe a past life connection or something that led you back there?
Yeah, I do feel like a pretty out there cosmic child, I've got to say. In fact, for most of my life, and occasionally still now, I do just have this sense that being human is something that is amazing, but really peculiar and not particularly familiar.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I often have that experience, but I'm good to be here. Like I'm grateful. I'm grateful for it. But the connection to Lemuria, Atlantis, especially different star systems, Venus,
Mm-hmm.
I feel a really strong connection with, and the star system of Sirius as well.
Yeah.
I can't explain why. It's just I would compare it like this. Say if you went traveling around the planet and you went to a new country that you hadn't been to before, and maybe you had some vague associations, but when you got there, it just felt like home. And you're like, wow, I'm
Mm-hmm.
really digging this vibe. I feel more natural here. I feel like I'm just comfortable in this culture. I wasn't expecting it. It might not really match your biological culture, but somehow you just vibe with that place. That's how I feel about these different parts of the universe and different dimensions of experience. So Atlantis, Lemuria, I just feel it. It's like it's in the human soul history. Lemuria especially, and I feel at the moment we're in a real learning opportunity around taking the wisdoms of both of them, balancing
Uh-huh.
technology and nature, for example, and learning how to make the most of these amazing intellectual gifts that humanity as a
Mm-hmm.
whole has collectively been developing. Like, we can do extraordinary things with our minds, and that can be terrifying or it can be a blessing, depending on, do we
Yeah.
have that soul heart connection, which to me is that Lemurian deep wisdom that honors the earth. So do we kind of honor the divine feminine wisdom with that intellectual prowess, or do we try to override it? And that's our choice, I think, in our personal lives
Yep.
as well as
Mm-hmm.
individuals and within the greater human culture. And we just have to decide every time we make a choice.
Uh-huh.
Even we can do small things like just choosing to turn off technology at certain times, use it for all of its gifts, because it does bring a lot of potential light. And I mean, we can have these
Yep.
conversations with people and feel that soul connection and communication with people we've never met physically. I mean, what a wonderful gift of what you're doing and you're creating with this, Colette. It's beautiful. And yet we still also need to be able to say, okay, I've taken that on and now it's time for sleep, and turn off the devices and really allow the body, soul to regenerate. So that's Lemuria and Atlantis to me. It's that sense of that deep human quest and task at this point in time.
Right, the quest and the task, exactly. And they
Mm.
mirror that. It's like Greg Braden talks about fractal time, how we can come back again and we have the choice points and we're at that choice point again. And we can learn so much. I don't know did you ever read a book by Solara years ago in the 1980s? It was about Lemuria and Atlantis. And for the life of me, I couldn't remember the name of it. But I
No, it
remember,
sounds great.
yeah, it was out around the
Yeah.
same time as Marion Zimmer Bradley's book, The Myths of
Oh, Miss
Avalon.
Avalon.
Myths of Avalon. Both those two books, I cannot tell you, they completely I just woke up because I remembered. It was a memory. So I don't know if that was your experience too. It's just that I knew it. It wasn't that I was reading a story, it was my story. And I
Oh
had,
God, that's amazing.
yeah, so I have a real affinity too for those. And I feel that we're back again to relearn some of the lessons. And we do have a lot of choices right now. And it's very
Yeah.
exciting. Yeah, let's pull one of your cards.
Okay.
Let's pull a card. Let's get together and let's ask if you have the Mother Mary Oracle.
I do.
That would be awesome. Yay! There's Shiloh's Shiloh. I
Yeah.
can't tell you. I know. I kept after her too, and then finally I just thought I'm not getting anywhere. I'm going to see what she has. So I just took a class. I just thought, oh, what the hell? I'm gonna paint. And sure enough, so this very meaningful that the Mother Mary Oracle is
Oh,
there. So why don't we ask your deck? What else could we reflect on, you and I, that we haven't
sorry.
talked about
Oh,
yet? Oops.
it doesn't take very long. This sounds very apt for what we're talking about. So it is Our Lady of Creative Choice.
Ah, yes.
Is remarkably on point. we're, we're good daughters of Mother Mary. Clearly, you and I
Yeah.
we're in the zone. She's happy. So this is it's pretty much what we're talking about this opportunity that we have always to choose. And I think the more we are grappling with the conditioning and experience of our ancestral lines
Mm-hmm.
and what we have co-created up until this point as a collective, the more there is the choice that we either feel like almost victimized, we're stuck in it and oh my God, what a mess. And then it can be quite disheartening and kind of rob us of that inspirational energy that allows us to feel hope for something different. So that's one choice. And the other choice is to really kind of, what's that expression? I don't know if this is Australian expression, but pull on your big girl panties. It's just,
Yeah, pull on your big girl panties. I don't know. I think it's Canadian too. We had the same
yeah,
queen at one point.
yeah. But let's just say a more elegant way, finding our spiritual sovereignty
Finding our
and just
spiritual sovereignty or put up your good. Yes, that's
girl
hilarious.
panties. Yeah. And just deciding, okay, how do I want to respond? Not react, not
Yeah.
collapse, but how do I want to respond? And I think one of the things with Mother Mary that I don't know if you have this, Colette, but I know for me, I always feel with her, she's like the iron fist in velvet glove. Like she's gentle and she comes through, but gosh, she's fierce. And there's been times when she's just said to me outright, I want you to do this. And it's been the thing that I have not wanted to do, the last thing I wanted to do. But because I feel it from her and I trust her, I just do it. And it's always the thing that helps me grow the most and takes me out of my, unconscious patterns. And they're unconscious. I didn't even realize I was doing it.
And we all have them.
Yeah, we do.
But what I love about this card too, and it is very apropos our conversation about creative choice, because a lot of people feel they have no choice.
Yeah.
And I think that the choice is to recognize that you have a choice, right? You might just capitulate to the conditioning of the collective or really the society, because I think the collective is also equally saying, come, where is our hope?
Yeah.
Right? There's the hopelessness or there's the hope.
Yeah.
And there are certain things we have to do. The choice is also, I will make a choice to surrender even though I'm afraid. I will make a choice to look at my shadow even though I'm ashamed. Or I will make the choice to do the hard thing, and because I know that if I don't, I'm here. I won't change. If you don't like where you are, you have to change.
Yes.
So it's the choice to change. And I do think that the difficulty, especially now, is people are afraid, and fear is a very difficult place to make a choice from.
I agree.
So do you have any specific thing to say about that? Like we have an uncertain world we're coming into and people are afraid. What do we all need?
I love that question. I think I met someone once, it was at a boot camp. She came running up to me and her hair's in a ponytail, was swinging. She looked like a beautiful kind of pony, and she ran up to me and I was terrified and anxious and nervous because boot camp, I mean, what the hell was I thinking? But anyway, I was there and she ran up and she said, I'm so excited about today. And it was run by this ex-military guy. Like, I was terrified and she was excited. And it always stayed with me because I thought, this is the same situation. Neither of us know what's going to happen. I'm terrified and she's also a Gemini. I'm a Cancerian. But anyway, I can't blame astrology.
When's your birthday?
15th of July.
17th of July. 17th.
Amazing.
Oh,
I knew I was
Okay.
And I'm probably stereotyping. Not all Cancerians are obviously going to respond that way. But I did. And,
I would.
And it changed me. I just thought, what if I felt excited about things I didn't know? And I learnt something from her in that moment. And then for the years, it was a long time ago, but now when I face things where I'm really not clear, which is a lot of the time, I don't know what I'm doing most of the time, which sounds like a confession of a fault, but I'm proud of that because I used to be a complete control freak. And the more I worked with spirit, the more I would have to say, I'm taking my hands off this and I'm going to throw myself heart and soul completely into what it is that feels true for my heart with absolute detachment from what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen with it. Whenever I sit down to write a deck or start and make a new decision in terms of the business or anything really in my personal life, I don't know. I can only work with what feels true and the most authentic and the most spiritually resonant in that moment. And then I just trust it. And I realized, things don't have to work out the way we anticipate to benefit from them. That's the first thing.
Right.
Sometimes the benefits come unexpectedly from things that appear to go wrong that are actually just a kind of course adjustment by the universe, getting us back on track somewhere more fantastic than what we would have imagined. So that's the first thing. And secondly, even if something does appear to go wrong, even if we take a more short-term view and think, gosh, this is difficult, this is not what I wanted to have happen, we are still protected and we're still held and we're still loved. And actually, this was a revelation to me, we're still okay. Who knew?
Who knew?
I don't know. Who knew that? But we're actually okay. And we're all in this this is the chaos element that we're talking about, but this mad, beautiful experiment of conscious manifestation and sometimes unconscious, projection with all these human beings together. And it's a little bit like, I think of it like a choir that, in the beginning when they're all warming up and everyone's a bit off key and whatever, but if we kind of keep to, eventually we get warm, we get on each other's wavelength, and then the music that can
Yeah.
be created together, and that energy that can come through. So, so beautiful. It's why we feel high when we, I don't know, go to a rock concert and everyone's feeling the music together. It's because we're in unity,
In the
you know? So,
coherence, everybody's coherent
yes,
at a rock concert. I know exactly. And it's the same
yes,
with what you're describing. It's that's the choice, really. I think
yes,
that's the creative choice, is
yes,
to sing with others, right? Sing in
yeah,
harmony and find that place where we remember. Even if others don't remember, we have to
yes,
remember. And I think
yes.
when we remember, more of us do.
Yes, we do. And we become the voices in the choir that help
Yeah.
the others attune themselves, you know, because that's the thing with harmony. You've got to know what you're singing and
Yeah.
not get carried
And then
away by what
somebody
others.
else can tune to
Yeah.
you. Oh,
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
this is so great. So, last question. What makes life worth living for you?
Oh, it's just so rich, and it's never boring. And if you show up, it delivers with so much generosity, everything that you could possibly need at this deep soul level. It's so unstinting in that generosity. There's a expression, forgive me, I think it's from Hafiz, um, but it talks about life as being like a comedic act and the divine is the comedian, but we're all a bit too scared to laugh. And it's sort of, we have to be willing to show up and get a bit messy. And Hafiz, that's right, talks about the divine as the lover kind of dragging you by the hair, and it's all very
Right.
passionate, but it's a bit uncomfortable as well. And there's just this sense that if we do show up and if we open to it, we're not going to feel in control, but it will give everything that we need.
Yeah, so showing up. That's what makes, yeah, yeah, I love what you said. I love it. Alana, thank you so much. For more information about Alana, her courses, her trainings, and all this healing work she does, go to alanafairchild.com. Thank you again. Ah, that was just so great. Thank you.
Oh, it's lovely to talk with you.